8 nights after they drove Mara Keene out of Cinder Draw, the storm had stopped sounding like weather. It sounded like a millstone, grinding the whole pass down to white powder. At the charcoal camp, roofs sagged under snow. The mule shed had split along one corner. Barrels froze solid in the cookhouse. Men burned green wood until the cabins filled with bitter smoke, and the thermometer outside Asa Worth's office had fallen to 24 below. But half a mile above the frozen creek, under a black shelf of hanging stone, a single thread of smoke kept lifting into the dark. No one at Cinder Draw believed a fire could live there. No one believed a person could either. And yet Mara sat behind that stone lip with her knees wrapped in hide, feeding a steady flame no larger than a dinner plate. On the wall beside her, charcoal marks formed a ledger. Day 8. Outside -24. Sleep pit 51. Wood left 3 bundles. Draft weak but holding. She pressed one heated rock under the folded hides beside her bed, checked the clay jar of tinder, then ran 2 fingers along the newest mark. The camp had called her a thief. The mountain had asked a harder question. Could she keep count well enough to live? 3 weeks earlier, Mara Keene had belonged to Cinder Draw in every way that mattered, except by law. She was 21 years old, narrow-shouldered, brown-haired, and so used to being useful that nobody remembered to call it skill. She had come west with her father in a broken wagon and buried him before the second winter. Asa Worth, who owned the charcoal pits, the mule teams, the storehouse, and most of the debt in that valley, offered her food and a bunk in exchange for work. The papers said labor contract. Everyone understood it meant leash. Mara cooked when the cook was sick. She mended sacks. She copied load numbers from the charcoal wagons. She weighed meal, counted beans, measured lamp oil, and kept Asa's supply tally straight enough that he could charge every worker down to the last nail. Her father had taught her figures on the inside of flour sacks. That made her valuable. It did not make her safe. Asa Worth rarely raised his voice. He did not need to. A man who owned the ledger could ruin a person with ink. His son, Lyle, preferred faster tools. Dice, cards, borrowed horses, promises made in the dark. More than once, Mara saw Lyle slip behind the office after the lamps were out. More than once, she found the lock on the small iron strongbox warm from being handled. She said nothing. In Cinder Draw, a hired girl's suspicion weighed less than the owner's son's lie. Only Alma Reeve, the widow who washed shirts and cleaned the sick room, seemed to notice what Mara noticed. Alma saw when Mara gave half her supper to a boy too proud to ask. She saw when Mara made the flour stretch by changing the cut of the biscuits. Once, before dawn, Mara found her torn sleeve sewn neat and folded at the foot of her bunk. No note, no thanks required. In a camp like Cinder Draw, kindness survived best when it stayed quiet. By late November of 1890, the first hard weather was already leaning over the Bitterroot Ridges. That was when Nolan Reed, a freight boss from the Copper Road, stopped at Cinder Draw with a locked wage satchel. It was made of dark leather, reinforced with brass corners, and sealed with a flat steel lock. Inside were the wages for 26 roadmen, 2 payroll drafts, and a roll of company scrip that could only be redeemed downriver. Nolan planned to stay one night, then cross the pass at first light. Lyle Worth lost money that same night in the bunkhouse. Not a little money. Enough that the 2 ore haulers holding his debt told him they would wake Asa before breakfast if he did not pay. After midnight, Lyle took the spare office key from the underside of his father's ledger drawer. He opened the office without breaking the lock, carried the wage satchel into the old lime shed, and hid it beneath a loose plank under the chalk barrels. He cut out a small handful of silver and 3 strips of company scrip, enough to silence the men who had beaten him. Then he pushed 1 copper road token deep into Mara's button tin. By morning, the satchel was gone. Lyle was the first to say he had seen Mara near the office door. A search followed. The copper road token turned up beneath her needles and spare buttons. Mara did not scream. She did not beg. She asked the questions that mattered. Why was the office lock unmarked? Who had touched the spare key? Why were there fresh chalk smears outside the lime shed? Why would a thief steal a whole wage satchel, then keep 1 useless token where every woman in camp knew she stored her mending? Asa refused every question. Nolan Reed looked at the token, looked at Mara, and chose the answer that cost him the least courage. Behind them, Lyle kept his right hand inside his coat pocket. A splinter from the lime shed floor had torn the skin across his knuckles. Mara saw the blood. So did Asa. Only one of them admitted it to themselves. That afternoon, Asa held judgment in the mess room instead of sending for the sheriff. Workers filled the benches. Nolan stood by the stove. Lyle leaned against the door where the light could not quite reach his face. Asa lifted Mara's labor contract and tore it in half. The debt ledger remained closed beside his hand. That was the trick. He could throw her out and still claim she owed him. By sundown, Mara was to leave Cinder Draw. She was allowed 1 blanket, a tin cup, a heel of oat bread, a dull paring knife, and the clothes on her back. Nothing from the store, nothing from her trunk. Alma Reeve stepped forward with her dead husband's wool coat folded over both arms. Asa looked at the room, not at Alma. Anybody feeding a thief can take her ration cut with her. Alma froze. So did everyone else. Near the back wall, a schoolmaster named Jonah Lark had been hired to teach the workers' children through winter. He had arrived only 2 weeks before, and he had not yet learned when silence in Cinder Draw meant obedience and when it meant fear. He watched Lyle. Lyle never looked at Mara. He never looked toward the office, and when someone mentioned the missing key, he looked at his own boots. By dusk, torn contract paper blew against the chopping block in the yard. The western sky had gone the color of cold iron. Mara wrapped the thin blanket around her shoulders, tucked the oat bread inside her dress to keep it dry, and walked out of the camp alone. No one followed. The road south should have led to a toll station 12 miles away. Mara made it less than 4. Rain came first, hard and slanting, soaking the blanket until it clung to her arms like wet hide. The wagon ruts filled with black water. Then the temperature dropped, and the mud began stiffening under her boots. At a fork below a burned ridge, a windfall blocked the lower road. Mara could not move it. She climbed instead, up a game trail that had almost disappeared beneath frozen fern and loose stone. She conserved strength the way she had once conserved flour. Small steps, no panic, no kneeling beside water when she could catch melt from the rock, no walking through dark brush where a hole could take an ankle. She used trees as windbreaks. She kept half the oat bread dry. She flexed her fingers before they stiffened completely. The mountain did not care that she was innocent. The cold had no opinion about theft. One bad decision would kill her long before truth found its way back to camp. Near last light, she heard a sound that did not belong to rain or wind. A hollow thumping. air moving through stone. Mara turned toward it because every other direction had begun to look like lying down. The slope opened beneath a basalt shelf the old charcoal burners called Hanging Rock. In summer, men avoided it because stones fell without warning. In winter, nobody went there at all. Frozen roots hung from the ledge like black rope. Ice feathers grew along the face of the rock. Wind pushed through cracks and made the hollow thump again. Mara nearly missed the opening. It was not a cave mouth, it was a slit under a tilted slab, half hidden behind dead fern and rime, no more than 30 inches high at its tallest point. Warm air touched her cheek, not warm like a room, warm like earth that had not surrendered yet. She tied the blanket and bread across her shoulders and crawled in on her side. The first 10 feet scraped her ribs and knees. The next 10 rose sharply. After that, the air changed. The rain vanished from her skin. The roar of the storm became a low pulse behind stone. The passage opened into a chamber roughly 21 feet long, 13 feet wide, and just high enough at the center for Mara to stand with her head bowed. Almost no daylight entered. She found the hearth by smell before sight. Old ash, dry smoke, stone that had held fire before. Near it, beneath a flat rock shelf, sat a rusted tinder case. Inside were a few curls of birch bark, 2 flakes of flint, and a lump of charcloth so old it almost crumbled when she touched it. It took 11 strikes before an ember caught. It took another half-hour before the small fire trusted her. When the chamber finally breathed orange light, Mara saw what the dark had been keeping. A cold pit dug lower than the floor. 2 raised shelves lashed with old rawhide. A clay jar sealed with pitch. 3 ruined willow baskets. A bundle of stiff hides, only 2 still usable. Bone awls. A cracked mica sheet. A short iron knife with most of its handle gone. A strip of scraped hide, marked with lines, dots, and small notched symbols. And a narrow smoke hole high behind the hearth, blackened by older fires. This was not luck. It was not treasure. It was an old answer to winter, broken into pieces and left behind. Mara held the marked hide close to the fire. Some symbols looked like trail signs. Some looked like weather marks. Some had been added later, in a different hand, darker and clumsier, as if a trapper or packer had tried to learn from whoever built the place first. She could not read it, but she could count. 1 sealed jar held parched roots and dried chokecherry cakes. The top layer smelled tired, but the center was dry. A second jar held willow bark, sage, and a few hard pinches of salt. The third had cracked and spoiled. There were 2 sound hides, 6 feet of usable rawhide, a rusted knife worth grinding down, 4 mica pieces, 1 good clay bowl, 1 cracked bowl, and enough dry sticks under the upper shelf to keep a fire alive for a night. Food, if stretched hard, might last 12 days, maybe 14. Shelter could slow death. It could not cancel hunger. Mara took a black stick from the hearth and marked the stone wall. Food, fuel, dry tinder, water, repairs. Then she added another line. Debt to no one. For the first time in years, the tally on a wall belonged to her own life instead of Asa Worth's account book. The first fire nearly killed her. She built it too quickly the next morning, hungry for heat and confidence. Smoke lifted toward the vent. hesitated, then rolled back under the roof. It thickened until her eyes burned and her throat locked. Mara threw damp soil over the flame and crawled toward the passage on her stomach. The shelter had not failed. She had used it wrong. After the smoke cleared, she made a smaller flame and held a thread pulled from her skirt near every crack in the chamber. At the low passage, it drew inward. Near the smoke hole, it barely moved. The hide map showed a spiral mark behind the hearth and 3 notches above it. She found a crawl space half hidden behind a shelf and climbed until her shoulders wedged between cold stone. The upper vent was packed with needles, roots, and the remains of a bird nest hardened with frost. For 2 hours, she worked with a bone awl and a branch hook. Twice, dirt fell into her mouth. Once, the branch snapped and cut her lip. When she tried the fire again, she did not feed it first. She warmed the vent. A thin flame under dry bark. Wait. Another curl of bark. Wait. A little more heat until the air in the chimney began to rise. Only then did she add wood. This time, the smoke climbed. Mara watched it for 10 full minutes before trusting it. That became the rule of the chamber. Nothing worked because it existed. Everything had to be understood. Over the next 5 days, Mara rebuilt the old refuge into a smaller refuge inside itself. She did not try to heat the whole chamber. That would waste wood and lose. Instead, she chose the driest shelf of floor above the cold pit and built a sleeping pocket from bent willow, rawhide strips, and the 2 good hides. She left a hand's width of air between hide and stone because the wall stole heat faster than cloth could hold it. She carved a shallow drain from the entrance slope toward the cold pit. She moved tinder into 3 separate containers. She lifted food onto the highest shelf. She trimmed mold from one hide and used it as a loose curtain near the passage, not tight enough to kill airflow, just enough to slow the wind. Failures came every day. A shelf sagged, a mica sheet cracked, one bundle of roots turned sour because she stored it too near the damp wall. She changed the arrangement and marked the mistake. There was no room for pride inside Hanging Rock. Pride took up space. By the 6th night, outside air had fallen to 16 degrees. Inside the sleeping pocket, with 4 warmed stones wrapped under the bedding, the temperature climbed to 52. 1 armload of wood, clean smoke, dry hides. Mara wrote the numbers on the wall. Day 6. Outside, 16. Bed, 52. 1 armload, smoke clean, hides dry. Then she placed the broken mica beside the mark. It was proof of failure. It was also proof that failure had been survived. At Cinder Draw, Mara's death became useful before it became likely. Lyle told the ore haulers she must have tried the lower road and gone into the creek. He repeated it until men began repeating it for him. Asa added the missing wages to a special loss column in the camp book. Within 2 days, flour, salt, tobacco, and lamp oil cost more at the company store. Every cabin paid a little for the theft Mara had not committed. Nolan Reed remained trapped by weather. With nowhere to go, he studied the figures he had given Asa. The missing amount did not match the story. Too little had been taken for a desperate thief. Too much had been hidden for a simple mistake. Jonah Lark remembered Lyle's eyes. Alma Reeve kept the wool coat folded beneath her cot and touched it each morning as if touching a wound. Then an old packer named Cobb Wren came down from the North Line and mentioned smoke under Hanging Rock. Not steam, smoke. Thin, straight, and too regular for rotting timber. The mess room went quiet. Asa said Warm Rock could breathe in cold weather. Lyle said Mara could not be alive up there. Too fast, too certain. Then he said somebody ought to check before she came back and lied her way into more trouble. Jonah heard what the others missed. An innocent man worries about the truth. Lyle worried about a witness. Cobb refused to guide them. Hanging Rock iced over badly in northeast wind, he said. A man could break his neck before reaching the ledge. By supper, Asa had cut off Cobb's credit at the store. Pressure was returning to Mara from the world below, and this time it wore boots. Cobb went to Hanging Rock anyway. He did not take the obvious creek route. He climbed the eastern spine, where wind had scoured snow down to stone. Mara saw him first, from a crack above the lower passage, her sharpened iron knife held still against her thigh. Cobb did not call out. He walked to a stump 20 yards below the black ledge and set down a bundle. Salt, a coil of thin wire, a square of canvas, a twist of tea. Then he backed away. Only after he turned to leave did Mara step out. Cobb looked her over once, not like a man seeing a ghost, like a man reading sign. Smoke straight, entrance masked, willow snares drying near the rock, wood bundles sorted by size, drainage cut away from the sleeping floor. Work, not miracle. Inside, he recognized parts of the shelter better than she did. The cold pit, the raised stores, the loose baffle at the entrance, the old symbols showing wind-scoured ground, water, rabbit runs, and bad fire chambers. He did not pretend all the knowledge was his. He said the first marks were older than any charcoal camp. Later hands had added to them. Travelers, packers, trappers, people crossing winter country who knew that a shelter was not a hole in rock. It was a system. Before Cobb left, he touched one of Mara's charcoal tallies. "The old ones would know what you're fixing," he said. No praise after that, only warning. Lyle had been asking about the smoke. The wind had moved northeast. The ravens were staying below the ridge. A bad storm was coming. Mara did not ask how bad. She counted her wood. Food had become the hardest number. The roots and chokecherry cakes could stretch perhaps 9 more days. The salt helped. The tea helped morale more than strength. But a body needed meat. Mara studied the hide map until patterns surfaced through confusion. A dotted line ran from the chamber to a willow flat below a broken ridge. A small split mark appeared beside it again and again. Not writing exactly, more like advice. She tested it against ground. The willow flat held hair tracks. Her first snares failed. One loop froze open. One bait was stolen by something too small. One snare sat on a trail too wide, giving the animal room to step around it. Mara narrowed the path with sticks. The next morning, a snowshoe hare waited in the second snare. She did not celebrate. She thanked it in the only language the season allowed. By using everything: meat, hide, sinew, fat, bone. Nothing thrown away. Nothing treated as free. At Cinder Draw, they had accused her of taking what was not hers. Under Hanging Rock, every taken thing became a responsibility. On the 10th day, Lyle came. He brought 2 charcoal burners, a rifle, a coil of rope, and a pry bar. He told them he only wanted the stolen wages if Mara had hidden them in the rocks. Mara heard metal before voices. She moved faster than fear. The hide map had already led her to a lower exit, a narrow, badger-like crawl masked by willow and broken talus, almost a quarter-mile from the main ledge. She had cleared it 2 days before and hated every minute inside it. Now that passage mattered. She carried the map, tinder, knife, food jars, one hide, and the best rawhide coil into the deeper section. Then she returned to the main slit and built a lie out of stone, loose slabs, dead fern, frost, a forked branch for leverage. She did not seal the passage completely. She left a fist-wide breath gap low to the floor, hidden by shadow, because air mattered more than fear. By mid-afternoon, Lyle reached the ledge. The climb punished him. Ice glazed the basalt. One burner fell hard and split his palm. The other stopped below the shelf and said no wage was worth dying for. Lyle crawled to the slit and found stone. From behind her false collapse, Mara heard him curse, heard him shove the pry bar into rock, heard him insist there could not be another way in. Snow was already moving sideways. The burners begged to leave. Before he backed down, Lyle shouted into the dark that Winter did not need a court to finish a thief. He thought he had spoken a sentence. He had given her a measurement. He understood caves. Mara was beginning to understand a mountain. That night, she lay near the breath gap with her cheek against stone and felt the faint pull of air. The passage was still breathing. So was she. The blizzard struck before dawn 2 days later. It did not arrive like weather changing. It arrived like a door kicked open. At Cinder Draw, smoke blew backward through weak stovepipes. The main road vanished by noon. Snow filled the charcoal pits until the black earth disappeared. By the fourth night, the thermometer outside Ace's office showed 24 below, and nobody argued with it because everyone could feel it in their teeth. Green wood hissed in stoves. The mule shed split wider. One cabin wall opened where the chinking had frozen and dropped out. Families crowded into the mess room because one stove was easier to feed than 8. Ace's ledger could not make dry wood. Lyle's name could not stop wind. The storm judged the camp by the same rules it gave Mara: heat, draft, water, food, shelter. Under Hanging Rock, Mara worked by rotation. Every 3 hours she checked the vent pole. Every 4 she cleared frost from the lower exit. She warmed stones beside the fire, never inside the coals, then wrapped them in hide for the sleeping pocket. She rationed the hare meat. She cracked ice away from the spring basin and kept the clay bowl upside down when not in use, because one falling chip could end the only vessel she trusted. On the 3rd day, the draft weakened. Mara smelled smoke flattening before she saw it. She killed the flame, cleared the vent from below, then warmed the chimney with bark the slow way. The smoke rose again. On the 5th day, a pounding came from the lower exit. Not ice, not shifting stone. A hand. Jonah Lark had left Cinder Draw after hearing the burners brag that Lyle found only a blocked hole. He had followed the eastern spine until snow erased his own tracks behind him. Twice he crawled, once he nearly turned back. Then he saw the thin smoke. By the time Mara pulled him through the lower passage, his face had gone gray-blue and his hams curled like claws. She did not drag him to the fire. She wrapped him in dry hide, gave him warm water in sips, and put heated stones near his sides, not against his skin. She had seen frostbite in the camp. Heat used wrong could be another injury. For hours, Jonah said almost nothing. He watched. The wall tallies, the raised food. The baffles. The spring. The wood bundles cut to matching size. The vent pole blackened at one end. Everything the camp might have called luck had a mark beside it. Work leaves a record when nobody is willing to witness it. By the 8th night, the storm began loosening its grip. Not ending, loosening. Outside remained deadly. Inside, the sleeping pocket held 51 degrees. 2 bundles of wood remained. Tinder stayed dry in 3 places. Food could last another 6 days if the snares worked again. Mara added a new line to the wall. Day 8. Outside, -24. Sleep pit, 51. Wood, 2 bundles plus scraps. Draft, weak, holding. Jonah watched her write, then looked at the chipped clay bowl. Mara had given him the unbroken one. She ate from a curved fragment of the cracked bowl she had nearly thrown away. He understood then that her survival was not built from strength alone. It was built from refusing to waste the broken parts. The storm left slowly enough to make everyone hate the waiting. Jonah remained under Hanging Rock for 3 more days while feeling returned to his fingers. During that time, he studied the marked hide by firelight. He could read Latin, scripture, and school primers. None of that made him able to read the mountain. But he could organize what Mara had already proved. The dotted path marked hare ground. The cup-shaped mark meant a spring under stone. 3 slashes below a ridge meant snow-scoured travel. A black hand near a hollow meant bad air. The crossed sticks warned where drifts sealed openings. Jonah did not discover the shelter for her. He put names beside lessons her body had already paid for. When Mara told him about the wage satchel, his memory sharpened. Lyle's refusal to meet her eyes, Asa refusing the lock question, the chalk on the yard near the lime shed, Nolan Reed muttering that the missing amount was wrong, the old shed being locked the day after the accusation. A shape emerged cleaner than Accusation ever had. Jonah offered to bring her back to Cinder Draw. Mara said no. The roads were still dangerous. The shelter still needed tending. More than that, she no longer trusted any place that required her to stand in the center of a room and ask dishonest men for permission to be believed. Instead, she copied the wall tallies onto scraps of bark and mica with charcoal. She gave Jonah a written account of the night the satchel vanished. She marked the safe route down the eastern spine, and when he was strong enough to leave, she handed him the longer of her 2 vent poles. He looked at it, surprised. "What about you?" "I made another." At the lower exit, Jonah hesitated. "Do you want me to tell them you saved my life?" Mara thought about the camp, the mess room, the torn paper, Lyle's eyes in shadow. Then she shook her head. "Tell them what happened," she said. "In the order it happened." When Jonah reached Cinder Draw, the storm had left proof everywhere. A section of the lime shed roof had dropped under snow. 1 chalk barrel had shattered. A floor plank had lifted where a twisted joist pushed from below. Nolan Reed, Cobb Wren, Alma Reeve, and 3 workers went inside looking for boards to patch cabin walls. They found the wage satchel under the floor. For a moment, nobody touched it. Then Nolan knelt and pulled it free. The lock was intact. The leather had pry cuts near 1 brass corner. Most of the wages were still inside. The missing amount matched, almost to the dollar, what Lyle had owed the ore haulers. Under the same plank lay the spare office key, a broken pry tip with leather and brass shavings caught in its edge, 2 debt notes written in Lyle's hand, and a torn scrap from the lining of his coat. Nolan carried the satchel to the mess room and set it on the same table where Mara had been judged. Asa tried one final story. Maybe Mara and Lyle had worked together. The lie lasted less than 5 minutes. The ore haulers admitted Lyle had paid them before dawn with Copper Road silver. Alma said she had seen him washing his sleeve before breakfast. Jonah repeated Mara's questions in the order she had asked them: the lock, the key, The chalk, the token. Truth did not arrive like thunder. It arrived like a ledger balanced by hands that had stopped shaking. By afternoon, Lyle had taken a tired horse and run south. Sheriff Ira Bell caught him near the toll bridge after the road opened enough for a posse to pass. 2 strips of Copper Road scrip were found inside his saddle roll, wrapped in oilcloth. The law came late. The evidence had been waiting under the floor the whole time. That evening, Nolan Reed stood in the mess room looking at the wage satchel. He did not say he had been fooled. He said something heavier. I picked the answer that let me sleep. No one answered. No one had the right. 4 days after Lyle's arrest, Asa Worth climbed to Hanging Rock. He came with Sheriff Bell, Nolan Reed, Jonah Lark, and Cobb Wren. He did not bring a rifle. The camp had changed while he was busy defending his pride. Workers were asking to see their debt columns. Men wanted wages recalculated. Women wanted store prices read aloud. The ledger Asa had used to control the valley had become the thing everyone wanted opened. They entered through the lower passage because Mara had not unblocked the main slit. One by one, the men ducked beneath the canvas baffle and stepped into the chamber. Mara was not waiting to be rescued. She sat near the hearth, grinding the rusted knife against a flat stone. The sheriff told her the official record would clear her. Lyle had confessed enough to charge him with theft and planted evidence. Asa's judgment, the torn contract, and the order that sent her out in dangerous weather would be written down. Asa said he had acted on what he knew. Mara looked at him for the first time since the mess room. You knew enough to check the lock, she said. You knew enough to find the key. And you knew enough to ask why chalk was in your yard. No one moved. The fire made a small sound between them. Asa's mouth tightened. For years he had owned the room whenever he stood in one. This room refused him. Mara returned to the knife. I am managing, she said. Nothing more. That was all the victory she gave him. On the way out, Asa had to bend low beneath the rawhide curtain she had cut, tied, and hung with her own hands. For 1 second, the man who once decided whether she belonged anywhere had to lower his head to leave the place she had made without him. Then the stone swallowed him into daylight. Mara did not return to Cinder Draw. When spring softened the pass, she built a small cabin below Hanging Rock, where wind cleared the ground early. The chamber remained what it had been made to be: storehouse, storm room, teaching place, and witness. She did not sell tours. She did not tell prospectors where the lower passage ran. Cobb helped her copy the old hide marks onto clean sheets. Jonah wrote the names he understood beside them, but he never placed his words above hers. The map showed where the mountain held water, wind, cold pockets, bad air, and winter roots. Mara's notes showed what each mark cost to learn. Alma Reeve came in April with the wool coat Asa had stopped her from giving. This time, nobody threatened her ration. Mara accepted it, pressed the sleeve once against her cheek, and hung it on a peg beside the hide sleeping pocket. Nolan Reed repaid every dollar Asa had claimed against her. Later, he helped buy slate, chalk, and books for a small school near the pass. Jonah taught letters. Mara taught another kind of reading: how smoke behaves before it kills you, why bedding cannot touch cold stone, why tinder belongs in more than one place, why a spring under rock matters more than a full barrel outside, why keeping heat is different from making heat, why the first answer is sometimes only the easiest one. Lyle Worth went to trial for theft and planted evidence. Asa lost the camp piece by piece, not in one dramatic fall, but in columns. Corrected wages, returned charges, store debts crossed out in front of the people who had carried them. Years passed. Winters came back because winters always do. Some were mild, some were cruel. More than once, families from the valley sheltered under hanging rock when roads vanished and roofs shook. They saw the old charcoal marks on the wall and the later ones Mara added beside them. Day 6, outside, 16. Bed, 52. 1 armload. Smoke, clean. Hides, dry. The marks never said she was innocent. They never said she was brave. They never asked anyone to feel sorry. They recorded only what held. And in the end, that was the part no accusation could outlast. The lie had needed a room full of people. The truth only needed a wall, a fire, and enough time to keep count.